following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, just visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. And welcome to you, the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We now present a reading of articles and features from our USA Today for Tuesday, December the 16th of 2025. And your readers today are Jody
and Alan Blackburn.
I'm going to start you right out on our front page. My first article is, The Sun is charged in the deaths of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer. Police have arrested Nick Reiner, now that's the son of Rob Reiner, after the deaths of the acclaimed Hollywood actor/director and his wife, film producer Michelle Singer. Nick Reiner, who's 32 and a screenwriter, he's the middle child of Rob Reiner and Singer, and he was taken into custody on Sunday, December 14th, and is being charged with murder, LA Police Department Chief Jim McDonald announced. He was being held on $4 million bail, according to the LA County Sheriff's Department records that were reviewed. Our hearts go out to the family and the friends of the Reiners, McDowell said. It's a tragic incident. The two were found dead inside their LA home December 14th, the police have said. Now, though authorities initially declined to publicly identify the two victims, LA Mayor Karen Bass and California Governor Gavin Newsom, they each released statements confirming that Rob Reiner, who is 78, and Singer, who is 68, had died. The LAPD issued a statement on social media calling the case an apparent homicide. Authorities then confirmed that many family members will be interviewed. They did not comment on how Reiner and Singer had died. USA Today was unable to reach a representative for Rob Reiner at the time of this publication. Now, Tracy Reiner had shared a brief statement about her father's death to NBC News and noted that she had just seen him at a family gathering the day before. I came from the greatest family ever, she said. I don't know what to say. I'm in shock. A second-generation actor whose father was comedy writer and actor Carl Reiner, Rob Reiner had a memorable role in the 1970s CBS comedy hit called All in the Family. He was Mike Meathead Stivic, the son-in-law and the liberal foil of the lead character, who was working-class bigot Archie Bunker, and that was played by Carol O'Connor. Reiner then made his 1984 directorial debut in a mockumentary, or a faux documentary, called This is Spinal Tap, which followed a fictional heavy metal band on the road. Actors who have worked under Reiner include Carrie Ewells of The Princess Bride, Corey Feldman of Stand By Me. They all have paid tribute to this director. No words, they said. They wrote along a black and white photo of two empty director's chairs on Instagram. In a tribute to Reiner that was posted on X in the early hours of December 15th, Eric Idle of Monty Python fame, he shared that he spoke to him last night for over an hour. Reiner, who was a native of New York City, was also well known as a Democratic Party activist and advocate of various liberal social causes. James Woods, who was the star of Reiner's Ghost of Mississippi, he posted on X, Rob and I remained good friends ever since we had made Ghost of Mississippi. The studio didn't think I was old enough to do the part, but Rob, he fought for me. Political differences, they never stood in the way of our love and our respect for each other. I'm just devastated by this terrible event.
MAGA is bringing back the R word. President Donald Trump's rhetoric has swung further toward the inflammatory in recent weeks, such as telling a female reporter, "Quiet piggy," in November amid his sinking poll numbers. Speaking at a rally in rural Pennsylvania on December 9th, Trump admitted using the phrase "S-hole countries" in 2018 to describe Haiti and several African nations, after initially denying the report 7 years ago. And increasingly, Trump and his allies are successfully reviving the use of the R word, a term once widely used to describe people with intellectual disabilities that they and their advocates say has evolved into a slur. The most recent example came on Thanksgiving Day, when in a series of Trump's social media posts, he called Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz, a former Democratic vice presidential nominee, seriously R'd for opposing his administration's immigration crackdown. Some of Trump's supporters have always reveled in the president's using abrasive language to get his point across, whether to excite the Make America Great Again base or poke opponents in the eye, or both. I don't think traditional media program has embraced it, but the audience have, and more people are willing to say it outside of the conversational circles. But using the term isn't always a winner for Trump and his allies. It may have helped cost the presidential politically, after an Indiana Republican lawmaker said Trump's comments led him to vote against Trump's redistricting plan ahead of the 2026 elections. Let's be intentional. Let's be compassionate. The Special Olympics, the world's largest sports organization for children and adults with intellectual disabilities, said in a December 4th post on X. Let's choose to include and stop using the R word today and always. For some of Trump's most avid supporters, using the term as a principled stand against what they called cultural Marxism being imposed on the country by progressives. There are so many words in the English language that have been driven out of use because we've been told they're politically incorrect. The word, the R word, you know what it means. I know what it means. We all know what it means, he added. It means someone who's dumb or lame or ridiculous. What the left, the thought police, the speech police are trying to tell you, when we do this, we are insulting people who are mentally handicapped. Ironically, mental retardation was a term first used by mental health professionals in the late 19th century as a diagnostic term meant to replace more offensive labels, such as feeble-minded, experts say. As late as the 1980s, organizations such as the ARC, which advocates for Americans with intellectual disabilities, still use the terms in their official names and in public service announcements. My next child could be retarded, singer Barbra Streisand said in a 1970s ad campaign, so could yours. Calls to retire the term increased as it became colloquially used as an insult to call people who don't have developmental disabilities stupid or foolish. But Trump's return has held a reversal of what MAGA activists and other conservatives said was hypersensitivity or cancel culture. Over the last year or so, that has given the R word a resurgence, appearing unapologetically in places like Joe Rogan's podcast or Elon Musk's social media posts in Trump's statement. The R word is back and is one of the great cultural victories. Rogan, who endorsed Trump last year, said in an April episode of his popular podcast. Trump's statements aimed at walls aren't the first time the president has used the term to slam a rival, and something used against Democrats and even fellow Republicans. During the 2024 presidential election, he reportedly referred to former Vice President Kamala Harris in the same way. While many MAGA-aligned celebrities and activists who support Trump may cheer the term's revival, Trump-supporting musician Kid Rock used it in October to describe Dr. Anthony Fauci. There have been a long social conservatives who object to using the term.
And man's best friend is getting smarter, research shows. The Duke study reveals how dogs learn and how they evolve. Researchers at Duke University set out to study dogs' intelligence, finding insights into how dogs learn, their individual strengths, and how the species is evolving to become better companions to humans. Working with 101 puppies, not Dalmatians, but all of them were potential service dogs, the researchers tested the dogs' abilities in problem solving, impulse control, socialization, and memory. Their observations supported research on a third wave of domestication for dogs. Now that describes how today's dogs are evolving to better fit in with their owners' lives. And the research shows how, like humans, dogs exhibit different kinds of intelligence, even as puppies. So, research into how dogs learn. Vanessa Woods, who's the director of Duke's Puppy Kindergarten, and she's the author of a book called Puppy Kindergarten, and Hannah Solomons, a Duke research associate and expert in evolutionary anthropology, they led this study. They found that the puppies learned the most from 8 to 20 weeks of age and demonstrated multiple types of intelligence. But, like humans, they didn't learn it all at the same rate. One of the first learned traits the dogs seemed to demonstrate at around 8 weeks was that Woods and Solomons have called mind reading. Now, that's the ability to understand and interpret human gestures. The puppies also seem to reach a major cognitive milestone at around 16 weeks when they mastered most of the skills that they had been taught. So what dogs were used in this study? Now, Woods explained that the dogs, Labrador and Golden Retrievers, were chosen because they are bred to be helpers and to do specific tasks. They tested to see the dogs learn the same things at similar paces in two different environments. A family home where they received one-on-one instruction and bonding, and then also at a university where they were around a lot of other puppies and in settings with hundreds of people and loud noises. Now, researchers found that some dogs are better at certain things than others, Solomon explained. That, Woods said, is important for service and working dogs, so they can be placed in a setting that suits their abilities best. And that's no small thing, she says. It takes about 2 years and about $50,000 to train a service dog, and almost half of all dogs who begin training, they don't even end up working as service dogs. Now, the third wave of domestication, Woods said researchers theorize that modern dogs may be undergoing a third wave of domestication. The first was when they initially became human companions, when they sat by our campfires and became our hunting companions. Then the second was during the Victorian era, when dogs began to be bred for more specialized aesthetics and characteristics. Now we're experiencing a cultural shift again, where dogs are becoming much more part of our families, they said. They're inside our houses instead of wandering around. They depend on us for socialization and food and exercise. They're on leashes, and no dog was bred for that. They were bred for defense, and now we don't want them barking every time someone walks by our house. So, what does it mean for our pets? For those who don't own a Labrador, a German Shepherd, a Retriever, or any of these other dogs that typically are associated with service, Woods said the study highlights how any dog can learn according to its own abilities. Typical service breeds are typical, she said, because it's easier for people with disabilities to have them, since another breed might present a barrier for them because of others' prejudice or preconceptions about what a service dog should look like. But we know there's no difference in the abilities among the breeds, she says. It's just that we believe service dogs have already undergone that third wave of domestication. We've seen that they have more oxytocin in their brains, the hormone that reinforces bonding, love, and connection. Now, the next step for researchers is figuring out how to predict adult dogs' behavior based on how they are as puppies, Solomon said. We want to see if there's a best time to test for characteristics that we want, and to figure out what puppies will be best at what specific jobs earlier. And they have such a cute picture. You can see two trainers working with a little puppy who's so cute. He's on a training mat, and they have a little box of treats in front of him, and he has a harness on. And one is holding him up in front of the other, and it reads, Duke University researchers conducted tests on how to gauge how the puppies learn and solve our problems.
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 12 minutes after 12. The Brown University gunman search goes on. The probe is going in another direction, the mayor says. Authorities resumed their search for the gunman in the attack at Brown University in Rhode Island. They killed 2 students and wounded 9 after a person of interest was released. At a news conference late Sunday, December 14th, Providence Mayor Brett Smiley and other Rhode Island officials told reporters that the detained man could not be charged and that the investigation was going in another direction. Smiley said there will be an enhanced police presence on the Ivy League campus and throughout the town of Providence as local, state, and federal investigators work to identify and locate the gunman who burst into a classroom in an engineering building and opened fire on December 13th. We have not yet solved this case, but I'm confident we're going to do that in the near future, Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Neronia said. Authorities and school officials have not yet publicly released the names of the victims, but some have been identified by their families and church leaders. Of the 9 people injured, Brown University President Christina Paxson said at least 1 has been released from the hospital. 1 remained in critical condition, and some were in critical but stable condition. Despite the mayor saying there was no way of knowing whether the gunman was still in the area, authorities did not reinstate a shelter-in-place order. The school canceled exams and classes for the rest of the year. President Donald Trump offered deepest regards to the families of students who died and wished a speedy recovery for the injured. Brown University, great school, really one of the greatest schools anywhere in the world, Trump said on December 14th at a White House Christmas reception. Things can happen. So to the 9 injured, get well fast. And to the families of those that are no longer with us, I pay my deepest regards and respects to the United States of America. It's not a mistake. Speaking to reporters the day after the shooting, authorities said they lacked evidence against the man they detained for several hours. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez said the man was detained through a lead picked up by the FBI. He said that after evidence was examined, by authorities didn't have enough to prosecute anyone. It's not a mistake, it's just how investigations work. Authorities declined to describe the evidence that led them to the man. Multiple outlets, citing officials briefed on the investigation, reported the person of interest's identity. USA Today is not identifying the person because they were neither named as a suspect in the shooting nor charged. School officials published a message December 14th after authorities announced the man's released to urge members of the community to remain vigilant in their own activities on campus. We know that this update may prompt numerous questions, the school said. This remains an active police investigation, and the university must defer to the Providence Police Department to release information as they deem appropriate. Several hundred people gathered December 14th in Providence's Lippert Park to honor the dead and wounded. The Providence Journal, part of the USA Today network, reported that Rabbi Sarah Mack of Temple Beth El sought to inspire resilience at the vigil. She said, "We gather this evening in stunned grief and in stunned shock. We can use our light to kindle more light. And that is how we can get through this dark moment." The U.S. Embassy in Uzbekistan has identified one of the dead as Muhammad Asis Umorsakov. "I'm deeply saddened by the reports of the tragic death of Brown University student on December 13th. Ambassador Jonathan Hennick said in a statement, "We extend our sincere condolences to Mr. Umorsakov family, friends, and fellow students, and mourn the loss of his bright future." The other student killed in the attack was identified as Ella Cook, a parishioner at the Cathedral Church of the Advent in Birmingham, Alabama. The church announced during its December 14th service. The Reverend Craig Smalley, in live stream remarks, described Cook as a bright light who was engaged in the church and in the broader community, and incredibly grounded and generous and faithful.
Australia gun laws did not halt the shooting. Debate restarts despite the country's tough limits. Now, 3 decades ago, almost 650,000 firearms, that was about 1/3 of all privately owned guns in Australia. They were surrendered, loaded into trucks, and then destroyed. In exchange for these firearms, part of a mandatory gun buyback program, the government paid out $200 million. Gun-related murder and suicide rates then plummeted. Now, a December 14th mass shooting at the Hanukkah celebration at Sydney's Bondi Beach, which left 15 people dead as well as one of the 2 suspects, has raised fresh questions about whether Australia's gun laws, already among the world's toughest, do they remain fit to prevent further bloodshed. Speaking to reporters on December the 15th, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that his government would be urgently examining the need for tougher gun laws and that if there is any action required in terms of legislative response, we will certainly have it. Australia's gun laws. Australia's National Firearms Agreement was backed by all the nation's major political parties and all 6 of its states and 3 mainland territories. It imposed a flat-out ban on automatic and semi-automatic rifles and shotguns. It also sharply restricted legal ownership of firearms. It established a gun owner registry and required a permit and a reason for all new firearm purchases. Self-defense did not count. Now, gun experts say that studies show this tightened legislation has largely worked and that Australia's gun ownership system can be credited with helping to engineer one of the world's lowest gun homicide rates per capita. So, are guns legal in Australia? Now, Tim Quinn, president of Gun Control Australia, which advocates for tighter gun laws, he wrote in a blog post that Bondi attack feels unimaginable here, which is a testament to the strength of our gun laws. Then Quinn added in his post, "It's essential that we ask careful, evidence-based questions about how this attack occurred, including how any weapons were obtained and whether our current laws and enforcement mechanisms are keeping pace with the changing risks and technologies. Some holes already appear evident." Now, after chairing a meeting with his national cabinet, Albanese, Australia's prime minister, said the country's firearms register, it still needs to merge records nationwide. He also acknowledged that people's circumstances change. People can be radicalized over a period of time. Licenses should not be in perpetuity. He said that in Australia's intelligence agencies, they may need to be more involved with firearms licensing. While Saeed Akram had a firearms license for recreational hunting, was a member of a gun club, and was not on a watch list, his son briefly came to the authorities' attention back in 2019 when examined over his ties to a Sydney-based cell of Islamic State group before it was concluded that he posed no threat. Some experts in Australia say there are other factors to consider. Now, recent statistics have shown that the number of legal guns in Australia has been steadily rising for 2 decades and now exceeds the number of licensed firearms that's owned by Australians before that 1996 crackdown. Andrew Hemming, who's an expert in criminal law at the University of Southern Queensland, said Australia's gun laws have weakened since the Port Arthur incident, and not only has the number of licensed firearms increased to about 4 million, but so has the concentration of ownership. Hemming said that gun ownership is rising in urban areas. It's also not always clear how thorough background checks are or whether checks are made to see if a licensed weapon has been modified. Hemming said it's his understanding that the deceased suspect held a license for 6 years with no issues. He said it's very difficult to stop an incident of this kind when apparently there were no red flags. Now they have a picture where you can see an agent standing in front of this bin of just thousands and thousands of guns all piled up on top of each other. And it reads Mick Rowlance. He's a firearms reform project manager for the New South Wales Police. He's standing in front of and looking at a pile of about 4,500 firearms that had been handed in under the Australian government's buyback scheme back in 1997.
Disability lawyers are facing possible cuts. Advocates say Trump officials are slashing access. The Trump administration is trying to slash access to lawyers who defend the rights of Americans with disabilities, advocates say. Most of the lawyers work either for the Department of Justice or for disability rights agencies that Congress set up in every state decades ago. Many of the Department of Justice lawyers quit in 2025 after being reassigned to other duties, their supporters say. And the Trump administration budget officials proposed deep cuts to federal grants supporting the state-based legal groups. People with disabilities have the right to live in their communities if possible. Federal laws and court decisions say they may attend school, work jobs, and go to restaurants, movie theaters, and other public places. If they can find lawyers, they can file legal challenges when these rights are denied. The federally funded attorneys quietly work to ensure the United States lives up to promises made by the Americans with Disabilities Act and other laws, said Allison Barkoff, a health law professor at George Washington University. I think many families of people with disabilities, or even many people with disabilities themselves, don't hear about it until they Google, "Where can I get help?" said Barkoff, who helped lead such efforts under Presidents Joe Biden and Barack Obama. The attorney's goals include ensuring that people with disabilities have the services they need to live in their own homes, instead of having to move into nursing homes or other types of institutions. There are people who, if these supports are ripped away, are going to have to leave their communities and their families at a higher cost for taxpayers. The state-based disability rights groups are known as protection and advocacy organizations. Many of them are nonprofit groups. Congress approved the federally financed system in the 1970s after TV journalist Geraldo Rivera exposed abuses in a New York institution for people with mental and intellectual disabilities, revelations that ignited a national outcry. President Donald Trump proposed cutting the system's federal funding from $148 million to $69 million for fiscal year 2026, according to the National Disability Rights Network, which represents state-based groups. Appropriations committees in the U.S. and Senate have recommended Congress maintain funding at the previous level, but advocates for the agencies worry that even if Congress maintains current support, the administration will try again to slash their support in future years. It definitely would put people in our communities in harm's way. White House officials declined to comment on why the Trump administration proposed the deep cuts. Isaac Schreier's family can attest to the value of the legal groups. Isaac, who's 7 years old, lives in Iowa. He has a rare condition, also known as a brittle bone disease. The condition has caused about 60 bone fractures, including in his limbs, spine, and skull, and it caused intense pain and leave him unable to walk. At times, his disability is practically invisible, said his father, unless he has recently suffered a broken leg, he walks well. But he tires much more quickly than you or I would. Isaac's doctor said he needed a special wheelchair that can be adjusted to put him in different positions, depending on which bones are broken. But the private insurer that manages his Medicaid coverage declined to pay for the $30,500 wheelchair. They required proof that it was a permanent and long-standing condition. We were very frustrated. Schreier appealed to the denial but lost. The nurse at a specialty clinic then recommended he reach out to Disability Rights in Iowa. a federally funded protection advocacy group that had helped other families in similar straits. The group then linked him with two of his attorneys, filed a new appeal, and the insurer wound up paying for the Isaacs wheelchair. Chair allows him to participate in school and community activities even when he has broken bones. Since Trump has returned to office, many of the Department of Justice's most experienced disability lawyers have taken buyouts and been reassigned to other areas. It's really a skeleton staffing at this point. The overall Civil Rights Division is down to about 300 people, fewer than half the number it had under Biden. Civil Rights Division's new director, Harmeet Dillon, told conservative commentator Glenn Beck in April that more than 100 attorneys had left the division, but that they didn't support Trump's priorities. The job here is to enforce the federal civil rights laws, not the woke ideology, she told Beck. In a statement to KFF Health News, Dillon said the division continues to be a vocal and active advocate for Americans with disabilities. Dillon noted the department recently sued Uber over complaints that the ride-sharing service was turning away customers with service dogs or wheelchairs, has secured agreements with Arkansas and North Carolina to improve the treatment of imprisoned people with disabilities, and is investigating large bus companies over allegations of failing to provide proper accommodations for people with disabilities. The department declined to comment on the record number of attorneys it has working on disability rights, on record about the number of attorneys they have. However, it is publicly recruiting civil rights warriors, including lawyers, to join the Civil Rights Division. Jack Schreier, the Iowa parent, hopes the issue will be worked out nationally. I really can't believe this is anything that would be partisan, he said.
1,435 couples, they smooch under the mistletoe in D.C., setting a new world record. Washington, D.C. now holds the new world record for the most kisses underneath the mistletoe after an event December 13th brought more than 1,000 couples together under sprigs of this festive shrub. A total of 1,435 couples simultaneously kissed for 5 seconds underneath the national mistletoe in D.C.'s business district. Now, that earned a Guinness World Record, according to these organizers. It eclipsed the last record holder. That was an event back in St. Louis in 2019 when Anheuser-Busch hosted a gathering for 480 couples to lock lips. Events like these bring people together in such a memorable, joyful way, and they show the true vibrancy and energy in a city that we love. Downtown D.C. President and CEO Jaron Price said in a statement. Now, the Downtown D.C. Business Improvement District hosted the get-together, which featured food and drinks and entertainment. But once the clock struck 5 p.m., the crowd broke off into hundreds of pairs, and they shared a kiss with their partners. This simultaneous smooching, it was certified on site by the Guinness World Records representatives. The national mistletoe in the nation's capital, it's a 10-foot diameter sphere of greenery, blooms, and ribbons, and a jingle bell, and it's 30 feet up in the air. As the hundreds of couples smooched, they held mistletoe above all their heads.
Well, you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 12:28, and we're going on to the money section. Grocery pricing roulette is tested. The report is that Instacart puts on a pricing experiment. Instacart is experimenting with pricing, charging some people shopping for groceries at the same time and the same store location prices that can vary as much as 23%. An investigation has found that, and on average, that could cost a family of four a swing of $1,200 based on Instacart's prices. The study by Consumer Reports, More Perfect Union, and Groundwork Collaborative, a Washington, D.C.-based think tank, found that information. That is particularly troubling, and American shoppers say they're grappling with higher grocery prices, in part because of inflation and tariffs, said Lindsay Owens, executive director of Groundwork Collaborative. Instacart has turned the simple act of buying groceries into a high-tech game of pricing roulette. When that same box of wheat thins can jump 23% in price because of an algorithm, that's not innovation or convenience, it's unfair, Owens said in a news release. Americans shopping for groceries aren't guinea pigs and shouldn't have to pay an Instacart tax. Investigation found 74% of grocery prices were different. Groundwork Collaborative, Consumer Reports, and More Perfect Union conducted an independent experiment involving 437 shoppers in live tests in 4 cities earlier this year. Volunteer shoppers simultaneously added 20 grocery items from a specific grocery store to their Instacart shopping carts, and researchers analyzed the prices. The tests were done at Safeway and Target locations in North Canton, Ohio, Seattle, St. Paul, Minnesota, and Washington. A follow-up test also evaluated 2 products at other Albertsons, Costco, Kroger, and Sprouts Farmer locations, which found similar price experimentation, but the results were not included in the study. Almost 3/4, or 74% of the grocery items in the experiment, had multiple prices for shoppers at the same store. For instance, a box of 10 Cliff chocolate chip energy bars sold for $19.43, $19.99, and $21.99 on Instacart at a Seattle Safeway store. The average difference between the lowest and the highest price was 13%, but some shoppers found prices that were 23% higher than the other shoppers at the same store for the same product. Overall, researchers found Instacart basket totals varied by an average of about 7% for the same cart at a location during the experiment. If you and I were standing in the checkout line with the exact same box of cereal and we were charged different amounts, we would think it's some kind of a bad joke, Owens told USA Today. The consumer groups are calling on Instacart to stop the pricing experiment and on lawmakers to protect shoppers from pricing schemes and surveillance pricing. On Tuesday, Senator Ruben Gallego, a Democrat from Arizona, introduced legislation to outlaw surveillance pricing. The One Fair Price Act would prevent companies from being able to use customers' personal data to set individualized prices. States including New York, Colorado, California, Georgia, Illinois, and Pennsylvania have introduced or advanced legislation to curb individualized or algorithm-driven price manipulation, according to the consumer groups. Additionally, Texas Democrat Representative Craig Kasar's Stop AI Price Gouging and Wage Fixing Act would ban the use of personal data to set individual prices. In a statement provided to USA Today, Instacart said retail partners control the prices on Instacart. A subset of 10 retail partners do test pricing, Instacart said. These limited short-term and randomized tests help retail partners learn what matters most to consumers and how to keep essential items affordable. Instacart said personal demographics and user-level behavioral data is not used to set online prices. These tests are not dynamic pricing. Prices never change in real time, including in response to supply and demand. The tests are never based on personal or behavioral characteristics. They're completely randomized, an Instacart spokesman said. Instacart also issued a blog post outlining its commitment to affordability. The Target spokesman told USA Today the retailer is not affiliated with Instacart, is not responsible for prices on the Instacart platform. Target does not vary our regular price for any particular guest or group of guests. Guests in any given location get the same regular price when shopping directly with Target. In response included in the report, Instacart said that publicly available pricing for Target and its pricing experiment with Target has ended. Ultimately, it's difficult for consumers to identify dynamic pricing other than by checking prices in the store or monitoring them over time. One of the volunteer shoppers for the study shopping Instacart, according to the prices she saw in her Instacart during the experiment were some were both higher and lower than others shopping the same items in the same store. It feels kind of dirty, she said, the pricing differences. It shouldn't be that my neighbor is paying more or less.
Powerful business lobby accused of being woke. Is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce woke? Consumers research taking aim at the powerful business lobby's statements on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and at the DEI initiatives it abandoned after the November presidential election, alleging the Chamber of Commerce protects woke political goals, not the consumers. This nonprofit group, which says it advocates for free markets and corporate accountability, pointed to the Chamber of Commerce's statement on its website that diversity is America's strength, making the economy the most vibrant and dynamic in history. The Chamber of Commerce, one of the largest business lobbying groups in the U.S., accused consumers' research of dredging up DEI initiatives in a tussle over litigation reform. At issues, the Chamber of Commerce's support of the Litigation Transparency Act of 2025, which would require greater disclosures about who is funding lawsuits. Some conservative organizations have objected to the legislation, saying it could make it harder for people to hold woke companies accountable. Now, make no mistake, this attack has nothing to do with policy and has everything to do with trial lawyer greed, Stefan Waguspak, president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Institute for Legal Reform, said. Just days after George Floyd's murder, the Chamber of Commerce launched a national initiative to address America's deep racial divides. The message at that time was, equality of opportunity is everybody's business. We fundamentally believe that all Americans should have the opportunity to earn their success, rise on their own merits, and live the American dream. But we know today that that is not the case. Then CEO Tom Donahue told attendees at a town hall in June 2020, calling on them to bulldoze barriers for Black Americans and other people of color. Shortly before President Donald Trump took office in January, the high-profile campaign, It Vanished, the webpage touting the Equality of Opportunity Initiative program, began redirecting the Chamber of Commerce's homepage. The retreat showed how dramatically corporate America has shifted in less than 5 years. Daniel Kinderman, a political science professor at the University of Delaware who studied this initiative, told USA Today back in February.
Trump's bathroom fight heats up. Workplace facilities hotspot for anti-trans groups. Most workdays, Leanne Withrow skips breakfast and has a granola bar or a spoonful of peanut butter for lunch and drinks as little water as possible. The transgender civilian employee of the Illinois National Guard, Withrow follows this restrictive regimen to limit how many times she has to use the bathroom at work. No one raised concerns about her use of women's restrooms in National Guard facilities or in federal buildings until, in one of his first acts in office, President Donald Trump issued an executive order recognizing only two sexes, male and female, and directed federal agencies to ban transgender and intersex people from single-sex spaces that match their gender identity. Now Withrow is suing, alleging the bathroom ban violates her civil rights. The proposed class action lawsuit seeks to represent all federal employees affected by the order. An executive order micromanaging which bathroom civil servants use is discrimination, plain and simple, and must be stopped. Michael Perloff, the staff attorney at the ACLU in Washington, said. Another lawsuit was filed last month by a transgender transportation security officer at Dulles International Airport. Danielle Minter-Redder accused the Department of Homeland Security of sex discrimination for barring transgender officers from performing security pat-downs and from accessing Transportation Security Administration restrooms that correspond with their gender identity. The Office of Personnel Management ordered federal agencies to ensure that restrooms and other intimate spaces are not designated by biological sex and not gender identity. The Justice Department did not respond to a request for comment. The cases are the first challenges to the Trump administration's bathroom ban as unlawful sex discrimination, setting up a showdown that could decide essential rights for transgender people in the workplace. Whether employees should have access to a bathroom that matches their gender identity is an unsettled legal question at the national level. It's just now beginning to work its way through the courts, said an employment lawyer and business litigator. My sense is the administration is hoping to get the issue before the Supreme Court and get a favorable ruling. Restrooms are a powerful political level. And how did the office bathroom, that prosaic fixture of everyday work life with its industrial-grade metal stalls and fluorescent lighting, become a major battleground in the nation's culture wars? Historian Neil Young said for generations bathrooms have been a proxy for political fights on almost every major issue in American life. From the Industrial Revolution to Jim Crow, Americans have imparted bathrooms to their deepest anxieties about changing social norms and practices. Over the years, bathrooms have proven a surprisingly powerful political lever. The ladies' room emerged in the 19th century as a safe space for the growing number of women working in factories. Massachusetts enacted a statute in 1887 mandating separate bathrooms for men and women, with the first in a wave of state laws rooted in the separate spheres ideology that women working outside of the home needed protection. Safety concerns that are still prevalent and controversial today. Trump made these concerns a key part of his platform during the 2024 presidential campaign. Now his administration is leveraging federal authority to reverse what he says are liberal gender policies. A study by UCLA's William Institute found no evidence that allowing transgender people to access bathrooms corresponding to their gender identity jeopardizes safety and privacy. Rather, says Jody Herman, a Williams Institute scholar of public policy, when trans people are made to use restrooms according to their sex assigned at birth, we put them at added risk of harm, a hotspot for the anti-trans movement. In recent years, legislation has swept red state houses across the country, contesting the civil rights gains of LGBTQ plus Americans. In 2016, North Carolina became ground zero for the movement when it passed what became known as the bathroom bill. Today, 1 in 3 transgender people live in states with some bathroom restriction, according to the Movement Advancement Project. After campaigning against what he called transgender insanity, Trump issued directives in his second term that rolled back protections in workplace policies for people who identify as transgender. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Chair Andrea Lucas has said her top priority is to defend the biological binary reality of sex and related rights, including women's rights to single space work places at work. The Justice Department has warned that federally funded institutions that allow men who identify as women to access single-sex spaces undermine the privacy, safety, and equal opportunity of women and girls and risk creating a hostile work environment. It has also pledged to defend religious freedoms. The Department of Justice filed legal action December 8th against the Virginia County School Board for permitting a transgender child to use the locker room that corresponds to their gender identity, and then punishing 2 Christian students who complained, the latest in a series of actions over the gender identity policies at schools across the country. Lowndes County's decision to advance and promote gender ideology tramples on the rights of religious students who cannot embrace the ideas that deny biological reality, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon said in a statement. The board previously said denying children access to the bathroom of the gender they identify with conflicts with federal court precedent. Bathroom access is an unsettled legal question. For more than a decade, the EEOC has held that discrimination based on an employee's transgender identity is illegal. And in 2020, the Supreme Court extended federal workplace protections to LGBTQ plus employees, ruling that discrimination based on transgender status necessarily entails discrimination based on sex. But in siding with 3 employees who were fired because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, the nation's highest court said it was not addressing bathrooms, locker rooms, or anything else of the kind. Whether other policies and practices might or might not qualify as unlawful discrimination, Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch wrote, are questions for future cases. During the Biden administration, the EEOC issued guidelines that unlawful workplace harassment includes denying access to a bathroom or other sex-segregated facilities consistent with the individual's gender identity. But some courts agreed, but in May, a federal judge in Texas gutted that guidance, saying the EEOC exceeded its statutory authority in defining discriminatory harassment to include failure to accommodate a transgender employee's bathroom, pronoun, and dress preferences. After the ruling, the EEOC revised the enforcement guidance. Former officials of the EEOC and Labor Department who served in several presidential administrations and formed a group called EEO Leaders criticized the move to shade out all references to harassment based on sexual orientation and gender identity. While the Supreme Court took no position on those issues, it's a gross misreading of the decision to assert that the court's silence on those particular issues means that all harassment based on sexual orientation or gender identity is not prohibited discrimination, EEO leaders said in a statement. Still, lawyers expect the EEOC to withdraw the guidance. What's more, the Trump administration may seek to extend the bathroom ban to the private sector. Should the administration's bathroom rules spread to the private sector, that would affect about 2.1 million transgender adults in the country, who make up less than 1% of the population. We've seen a heavy focus on transgender issues in the president's executive orders this year, and with a Republican-controlled House and Senate, the issue could gain traction in Congress. What are your bathroom rights? Most employers have prohibitions against harassment based on gender identity, and in efforts to create an inclusive environment for transgender employees. Now they face a quandary when deciding which employee to accommodate: a transgender individual's right to use the bathroom of their choice, or a co-worker who objects to it, the lawyers say. It's an open question whether employers can or should limit access to bathrooms and locker rooms based on biological sex. It does leave employers guessing or attempting to balance rights. We are going to get these concerns. What do we tell people? We have an obligation to provide safe bathroom access for everybody. Making matters more complicated for employers is the legal patchwork of state laws and city and town ordinances governing restroom access across the country. New Hampshire Republicans are pushing a bathroom ban in the next session that would allow private businesses, not just government facilities, to restrict access to public facilities. Business owners may require that all multi-user bathrooms, restrooms, and locker rooms under their control be based on the individual's biological sex, the bill states. According to the Movement Advancement Project, 20 states have laws prohibiting transgender people from using bathrooms and facilities. In 2025, 9 states passed new laws or expanded existing laws, but many states have laws that protect LGBTQ plus employees and access to vital services. Employers in multiple jurisdictions have to walk a very fine line in making the business decisions about how to handle this thorny issue.
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on Onondaga Frontier Radio Reading Service. And our time is 12:45. We're still in our money section. Now we have the housing market in 2026 could have mixed results. What will happen in the housing market next year? Here are some of the best guesses from the industry participants on many of the things that matter the most, like rates, prices, and sales, as well as some of the fun extras, like a spa bathroom, anyone? It's also worth noting that many industry experts are increasingly forecasting divergence in the national housing outlook. Odetta Kushi, deputy chief economist at First American, calls it a two-speed market. It's split between regions that are going to see more growth and those that have become too expensive or too risky to continue booming. Mortgage rates in 2026. As of the first week of December, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage has averaged 6.64% throughout all of 2025. Now, that's not far off last year's forecast. For the coming year, most industry pros expect a slight decrease, though perhaps not as much as many buyers would hope for. Mortgage Bankers Association says 6.4%. Realtor.com says 6.3%. Kushi says low sixes. Lawrence Yun, National Association of Realtors, says averaging around 6%. Fannie Mae says 6%. Home prices in 2026. NAR says 4% increase. Realtor.com says home prices will grow by 2.2%. However, real inflation-adjusted home prices will decline slightly. Bright MLS chief economist Lisa Sturtevant says 0.9 increase, and last, Mortgage Bankers Association says 0.3 decline. So home sales volumes in 2026. NAR lists 14% increase. Lisa Sturtevant says 9.0 increase. Fannie Mae puts 7.8% increase in sales of previously owned homes. MBA says 6.3% increase in sales of previously owned homes. Negotiating power is expected to tilt slightly toward buyers as more homes come online and affordability improves, though younger and first-time buyers will continue to face financial hurdles. The housing market will be bifurcated. Lean inventory in the Northeast and the Midwest, it keeps conditions relatively tight and price growth steadier, while parts of the South and the West, they remain soft. Rising insurance and other carrying costs, especially along the coast, could widen that gap. Sturtevant agrees that tighter coordinations will support higher prices in the Northeast and Midwest. AI-driven tech markets like San Francisco and San Jose are seeing a resurgence in housing demand, and then will fuel stronger price appreciation in the year ahead. Realtor.com analysts believe the divide will also extend to the rental market. The South and the West will see the largest benefits from rent softening, driven by significant new construction and already moderating prices. But for some high-density, high-cost metros, like namely New York City, there's no rental relief in sight. And lastly, they say, Americans will keep nesting in 2026 and beyond. Zillow's Trends Outlook expects more of an emphasis on wellness in the home. Buyers are likely to be drawn to dedicated meditation spaces, smart cleaning technologies, or spa-inspired bathrooms.
And here's Johnny Taylor's HR column. Question: why is it legal for someone less qualified than me to get a job simply because he's Hispanic? We got rid of an affirmative action, didn't we? Why is DEI legal? Asks Mike. And this is race-based hiring practice remain illegal. The answer, Johnny says, there's a lot to unpack here, so let me get straight to the point. No, an employer cannot legally hire someone less qualified because they're Hispanic, or because they're white, or black, or anything else. And that's not new. Since 1964, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act has made discrimination based on race illegal, full stop. And that protection applies to everyone. So why all the confusion? To start, the recent Trump administration executive orders have been misinterpreted as making diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, illegal. They didn't. They eliminated illegal DEI practices, and only for federal contractors and subcontractors. The key word here is illegal. These executive orders didn't invent new rules. They reinforced what's been true for 60 years. Now let's clear up another common misconception. Yes, the recent executive orders prohibit affirmative action for federal contractors and subcontractors. But even before that, affirmative action was already on a long legal leash. As far back as 1978, the Supreme Court struck down racial quotas. Over the years, the High Court narrowed those rules further, and in 2023 struck down race-based affirmative action in higher education altogether. In other words, affirmative action has never allowed organizations to ignore Title VII. It was never a permission slip to discriminate. So back to the questioner's situation. If a company truly hired a less qualified person because of race, that would be illegal. But before you hire a lawyer, take a step back and make sure you're looking at the situation clearly. Because in hiring, qualified is rarely as simple as who checks the most boxes on paper. I have hired a lot of people over the years, and I've seen plenty of candidates with impressive resumes fall flat the moment the interview starts. Why? Because employers evaluate far more than technical skills. They look at attitude, communication, curiosity, cultural fit, and emotional intelligence, what I call power skills. You can teach someone the software, but you can't teach integrity. You can't teach drive, and you can't teach how they treat people. And sometimes the candidate who seems stronger on paper just isn't the stronger candidate in person. So here's my advice. Before assuming discrimination, take an honest look at the full picture. Did you clearly demonstrate not just competence, but presence? Not just experience, but readiness? Did your interview show the power skills that separate good candidates from great ones? If you truly believe race was the deciding factor, and you've taken a hard, fair look at the situation, then yes, talk to an attorney. Title VII exists to protect you. But if an honest reflection finds you lacking, it's time to focus on your personal growth, how you show up, how you communicate your value, and how you make your excellence undeniable. At the end of the day, it's the law's job to prohibit discrimination. Your job is to stand out on merit, and that, not race, not speculation, is what gets you hired.
Fan videos with Disney characters on the way. Deal with OpenAI means videos with Mickey and more. As part of the Walt Disney Company's $1 billion investment in ChatGPT parent OpenAI, the entertainment giant will let you use Mickey Mouse and other Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars characters in your own artificial intelligence created videos. Now, in addition to making videos with OpenAI's AI-driven video creator called Sora, S-O-R-A, subscribers will be able to watch curated Sora-generated videos on Disney+. Disney fan-inspired videos made with Sora are expected to begin in early 2026, the company has said on December 11th. Now, as part of a 3-year deal, Disney will also use OpenAI's applications to build new products, tools, and experiences, including for Disney+, and its employees will use ChatGPT's chatbot. The Disney and OpenAI deal is a big step toward an AI-driven future for the House of Mouse, while giving Disney devotees unprecedented control over beloved characters with copyright holder safeguards. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, it marks an important moment for our industry, and through this collaboration with OpenAI, we will thoughtfully and responsibly extend the reach of our storytelling through generative AI while respecting and protecting creators and their works. Disney CEO Robert Iger said in his statement. The Disney OpenAI deal, it coincides with a cease and desist letter Disney sent to Google alleging copyright infringement for allowing its works, including Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars characters, to be used in AI-generated images and videos. Google's AI services are designed to free ride off Disney's intellectual property, reads the December 10th letter that was sent to Google's attorney, according to a copy acquired by USA Today. So what is Sora, and how will Disney characters be involved? Sora is an AI-driven video generator that can create new videos from your text instructions using existing images and videos, including new ones that you have uploaded. You can describe a scene to generate a 10-second vertical video with synchronized audio. So for now, you can cast yourself and your approved friends in videos according to Sora's instructions. But eventually, you will be able to make videos starring Disney characters, like Disney princesses, including Cinderella, Pixar characters, including those from Toy Story and Monsters, Inc., as well as Marvel and Star Wars characters, including the Black Panther and Yoda. Consumers will be able to make 30-second videos using the names and likenesses, but not the voices, of about 200 characters, Iger said during his interview. The feature makes sense, Iger told CNBC, because we have seen a significant amount of growth in consumption of short-form video, and we also think this is an era where almost everybody can be a creator of sorts. And we have seen in breathtaking fashion on other platforms, we have seen that. And this is the way for us as a company, really, to provide experiences to particularly younger audiences, engaging with our characters in new ways. So users of Sora's video generator have a demand for Disney characters that is off the charts, Altman told CNBC. Consumers will be able to insert themselves into a lightsaber fight in Star Wars, or make a Buzz Lightyear custom birthday video for their kid. I think this is going to be like quite a big deal for our users, and then we can reevaluate from there, he said. The Disney OpenAI relationship will help both companies and can be fun for consumers, Dan Ives, who's global head of tech research for Wedbush Securities, he told USA Today. This is all about integrating Sora into the Disney network and cross-sell for ChatGPT, he said. It's a blending of the worlds, and it's a smart move by Disney, in our view, to dive into the deep end of the pool with OpenAI. So last, how do I get Sora, which is OpenAI's video generator? A consumer version of this Sora app is available through Apple's App Store, the Google Play Store, and Sora.com. ChatGPT subscribers also can get access to Sora. ChatGPT Plus subscribers, now that's $20 a month, they get limited access to Sora 1 video generation. ChatGPT Pro subscribers, that's $200 a month, can create longer, higher resolution Sora videos. OpenAI on December 11th also announced ChatGPT-5.2, which includes advanced features in thinking, reasoning, and task solutions for ChatGPT. About 800 million use ChatGPT each week, OpenAI has said. And let me just remind you, you're listening to a reading of articles from our USA Today for Tuesday, December the 16th of 2025 on our Niagara Frontier radio reading service. We'll return to you for more readings just after this short break. And your readers again today are Jody
and Alan Blackburn.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's issue of USA Today. Your readers are
Jody.
and Alan Blackburn. And it's on to the sports section. We start off with a story about the Bills. The Bills won't give up the AFC East easily. The second half, Buffalo collars Patriots in a showdown. The Buffalo Bills are a second half team. Contextualize it through any filter and the statement holds up. A game, a season, watch out for those Bills in the second half. They're coming. It's when quarterback Josh Allen, the reigning NFL MVP, shows why he's the best player in the world. Since 2020, the Bills are 23-4 in December and January to finish out the regular season. If the AFC power dynamics have truly shifted, it did not officially occur Sunday, December 14th, when the Bills spoiled the New England Patriots' chance to win the division for the first time in 6 seasons, with a 35-31 victory to prolong their own chance of turning 5 straight AFC titles into 6. The Bills entered Week 15 with a plus 95 point differential in the second half, which was the highest in the NFL. The Bills overcame a 21-0 deficit in the first half and a 24-7 hole at halftime. It was 24-21 by the end of the third quarter, and what started as a performance of 3 straight punts turned into 5 straight touchdown drives. Obviously, you want to start faster, and we don't want to continue to put ourselves in the holes we're finding ourselves in, but being able to dig ourselves out and be battle-tested coming down the stretch here, Allen said. But yeah, we'd love to find ways earlier on in the game to get things going so we don't have to put ourselves in that situation. Since the Patriots remained in first place, Allen pushed back on the notion the Bills are the standard bearer of the division. Obviously, the last 5-ish years we found sustained success, but never been able to punch our ticket to the Super Bowl, Allen said. At the end of the goal, that's every team's dream. Our goal is not just to win AFC East. You have to get into the playoffs to get yourself a chance to win a Super Bowl. So that's what we're trying to do. The weather was fitting for a potential deciding game in the AFC East. The snow flurries falling around the greater Boston area for hours before kickoff and continuing throughout the game. Even more apropos was the back and forth game. The fourth quarter had 3 lead changes that left the AFC picture opaque. It helps to having number 17 on your sideline. They have a good feel when they are and when they're not playing the way we need to play, head coach Sean McDermott said. And I saw Josh as I was kind of bringing everybody up. He looked at me. I just knew he was seeing it like I was. The entire team was on the same vibe. Winning close one-score games matters for teams that have designed on victories with more importance than a December contest on the road, if that's what you want to boil this one down to. Tight end Dawson Knox said. No one in here blinked, Knox said. Coaches and players talk about riding the ups and downs of a game, a week, a season. The Bills don't bother. No team can score 21 points in one drive. It's like such a chill vibe no matter what the score is, Buffalo wide receiver Khalil Shakir said. The vibe can be difficult to explain, Shakir said, but it's palpable on the sideline. The fight in this team is unreal and unbelievable, he said. We play for one another. We play for our families. It's a great feeling to know you're not out of it. Allen finished 19 for 28 for 193 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, both to Knox. I think it's the love each man in that locker room has for each other, the willingness to put their body on the line in order not to let their teammates down. I think that's the driving force, Allen said. It's the relationships in that room. It's whether we were playing really good or we were playing really bad, this team, we're going to stick together, continue to fight, and continue to find ways to win football games. He ran around like a madman. He limped. He puked. It was the quintessential JA-17 experience. As Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel said, that's why they pay him $60 million. I'm giving a dissertation on what a league MVP, Vrabel said. Just watch all the games and know it's the same as it was last week. Allen showing his pinpoint accuracy as a thrower of the football by putting a pass into Khalil Shakir's breadbasket for 37 yards. A holding call took back Allen's third down touchdown dash. No matter to 17, though, on 3rd and goal from the 15-yard line, Allen stepped up and fired like a shortstop, turning a double play to Knox in the back of the end zone for 6 points in the Bills' first lead of the game. All Knox could do was chuckle in disbelief. That throw, man, it was on me in a second, he explained. It was like a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and he put it in the perfect place where the defender just couldn't get it. Just another thing that makes him the best player in the world. Running back James Cook ran through tough for 107 yards on 22 carries and a pair of touchdowns. No receiver had more than 5 catches for 65 yards. Shakir led Buffalo in both categories. That's his superpower. That is who Josh Allen is. Patriots cornerback Christian Gonzalez says, "We've talked about it all week, and it just props to them."
Nix proving he's not just along for the Broncos' ride. Give Bo Nix a standing O. The Denver Broncos, they won their 11th consecutive game. They clinched a playoff berth and became the first team in NFL this season to post 12 victories with an inspiring triumph on Sunday, December 14th at Empower Field at the Mile High in Denver. And it was not in spite of their embattled young quarterback. It was largely because of their scrappy young field general. Sure, the Broncos defense showed up again as one of the best units in the NFL. The reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain II, instantly flipping the momentum like that in the third quarter with one of the most breathtaking interceptions you'll ever see. Yet for all the heat and 3 more sacks, the Broncos put on Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love, and for the problem Denver D had in containing Josh Jacobs, 14-yard TD catch, 40-yard TD run, the 34-26 outcome begged a different type of pressure. Now, ultimately, in a game that featured 6 lead changes, the Broncos had to prove that they could not only keep up with the Packers, but one-up them, too. Enter standing ovation. It wasn't too long ago, like on a Thursday night in November with the LA Raiders in the town, that they booed Nix at the Broncos' home park as the offense struggled like something awful. Cool thing, he never flinched. Nix won the game, gave his defense props, grinned and said something witty. "I've been booed before and I'll be booed again," he said. "Look at him now. Talk about a changing narrative." Nix was fabulous on Sunday, passing for 302 yards and 4 TDs without a pick. This second-year pro had the 3rd highest passing rate of his career. And there's so many plays to talk about, Peyton said during his post-game press conference. Here are 3 of the plays that screamed, wow. In the second quarter, Nix fired a bullet through a tight window to Lil Jordan Humphrey for a 5-yard touchdown. And at the end of the third quarter, Nix threw a strike over the middle to Troy Franklin, his former Oregon teammate, for a 23-yard touchdown. And then early in the fourth quarter, with Denver clinging to a 27-26 lead and facing a 4th and 2 from Green Bay 41-yard line, Peyton went for broke. Nix has surely demonstrated that his temperament is built for dealing with adversity and he thrives under pressure. And he is undoubtedly gaining more confidence with each success, which is compounded by the trust of his teammates, and that goes for defensive players too. They have developed with Nix. In many corners outside Broncos headquarters, the expectations have been rather reserved, despite the NFL's longest winning streak. Never mind that Denver had won 10 games in a row and 11 straight at Empower Field. They still entered the game as a home underdog. During the week, when someone asked about apparent slight, Nix quipped, "Well, my mom thinks we'll win, so that's really all that matters." And it turns out Nix's mom was correct. No, her son doesn't have the resume that Hall of Famers John Elway and Peyton Manning built, including their Super Bowl titles with the Broncos. But Nix's mom can surely envision that potential of winning a championship, and not because Bo Nix would just be going along for the ride.
On board for run-up to the Milano Games, Chloe Kim talks mental health for the 2026 Olympics and more. The toughest time of the year for Chloe Kim, the off-season, is about over. The 2-time Olympic gold medal snowboarder, its first event of the 2025-26 season, which includes the Winter Olympics, starts this week. Sometimes Kim's anxiety fuels thoughts she'll wake up one day forgetting how to snowboard, as if the 25-year-old didn't become the first woman to repeat as Olympic halfpipe champion at the 2022 Beijing Games. The minute I get my snowboard on, I'm like, oh, why was I being so dramatic? I'm totally fine, she said. Kim spoke to us at the USA Today. Obviously, I was super down, and because mental health is a very important topic to me, Kim said. So whenever we continue to spread that messaging, it's what I'm here for. Kim went into detail about her mental health struggles after the 2022 Olympics, the upcoming Olympic season, and her relationship with Cleveland Browns defensive end and likely NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. When did you really start to take stock of your mental health? Kim says, it was something I struggled with during COVID, I think it was. 2021 at the time, I think I tried to do things by getting into self-care and whatnot. But my mental health got really bad. Honestly, a couple of years ago at that point, I started doing intensive therapy, and I really felt like really like feeling a lot of things I've experienced in the past and finding better ways to cope with all the stress and pressure that inevitably comes with being a professional athlete. And I think that I'm in a better place now, for which I'm feeling grateful for. Question, that intensive therapy, was that pre-Beijing or after? It was after, Kim said. Question, it was definitely a stressful Olympics for a lot of people. Did that bubble atmosphere have an added effect, or was it a typical post-Olympic blues? Kim says, I think it was just an accumulation of events. I think it was somebody that had found a success at such a young age and was given very adult responsibilities at a young age. I think that when you're young and going through your formative years, it's very confusing to be put in that type of position. I think that there were a lot of things that I had experienced that were abnormal in a lot of ways. I'm such a social butterfly. I think it really started when I felt that many people couldn't relate to what I was going through. And I started villainizing myself and thinking I was the problem. I think as I got older, I continued to harbor those feelings. I don't know, just like I just didn't like myself that much. And I wasn't my biggest fan. And I think that took a toll on me after 10-something years. I think as I experienced more pressure and more expectations, I'm very hard on myself. I think all of that had to blow up at some point. I had to hit rock bottom to see that I needed to take care of myself. I think COVID was the thing that I don't know caused it to explode. Question, I think a lot of people probably felt that way too. Kim says, yeah, I think even interactions with my friends and family were so awkward because I was so afraid of getting COVID going to the Olympics. Something I trained for could go away completely if I caught it. I think it was hard for me to find support and just a sense of community my way. It was there for me, but I think I was just so afraid of what ifs that I inevitably isolated myself. That really took a toll on me. After the Olympics, I just got really bad, so I'm really grateful for my therapist. She's the best. I owe her a lot. Question, shout out your therapist. Shout out all therapists. Are you able to find that sense of community you mentioned with your fellow Olympians, your fellow athletes? And Kim says, absolutely. That's kind of what I'm realizing now. When I look back at my old self, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so silly for isolating myself in so many ways. We have such an amazing community. My family's amazing. I'm so grateful to have them. They're so supportive and always there for me. My friends are amazing. Love every single one of them so dearly and so grateful for them. I have an amazing support system. I just think when you're at your lowest low, it's hard to see that. You kind of need to get to a point where you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not okay. So I'm really happy I went through that process. Because now I can reflect and look around me and be just so grateful for the people I do have in my life because they've been there since day one in a lot of ways. Question, are you in training? Where are you at in your training right now? Kim says, I just got back from a training camp, which was really nice to get my feet back. My first competition is actually in the middle of December, and it's in Colorado. And yeah, I feel good. I think I'm trying to stay consistent and maintain my routine and treat it like any other season because it's like any other season. I think it's very easy to get riled up going into the season because you don't know what's going to happen. And sometimes I panic. And I'm like, what if I wake up tomorrow and don't know how to snowboard? What if I just don't know what I'm doing anymore? It's like a weird, anxious thing I have. The minute I get my snowboard on, I'm like, oh, why was I being so dramatic? I'm totally fine. So I think right now it's probably the roughest time for me. But then the minute I'm back on snow and doing my thing, I'm all good. Question. I know you have to go, and this has to have been awesome, but real quick. Before you met Miles, did you know how good he was? Kim answers, I grew up in a very Korean household, so we didn't really watch American sports or sports in general. It was whatever my dad was into. I guess my dad did watch football when he came to America, but when he came around, it was sort of like golf, tennis, things of that sort. So it's actually funny that we're in this position right now because I had no idea who he was, like zero idea. I actually didn't know many athletes. Like I know Tom Brady and LeBron James, and that's my extent. That's all I know. But now I'm all about it. But honestly, Miles is such an incredible athlete. I'm constantly inspired and in awe of him and how hard he works and how incredibly kind he is. He's genuinely one of the kindest people I think I've ever met. I'm really lucky to be part of his life and lucky that he's part of mine. Yeah, we're happy.
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on our Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our time is 1:14. We are still in sports. Now we're going to talk about the Chiefs. The Chiefs' playoff era is ending the hard way. So this is how it ends. Patrick Mahomes was knocked out of knocked out of the loss that eliminated the Kansas City Chiefs in the waning moments of the game that left with a wicked left knee injury. There was no cape for Superman to put on to save the Chiefs' kingdom, this time on Sunday, December 14th. Rats. You know he tried. But that knee, it buckled and bent awkwardly. He lay on the turf in apparent anguish as the medical team administered treatment. Teammates went down on one knee. It was a somber scene at the Arrowhead Stadium. Mahomes, who has demonstrated repeatedly that he is as great as it gets, he is human after all. The Chiefs needed him to spark a last-minute rally for a game-tying field goal or even a winning touchdown. But guess what? There was nothing left. Minutes after the game ended, the ominous tone from the Chiefs' coach Andy Reid strongly hinted that the star quarterback, he was done for the year. It doesn't look good, Reid said during his post-game news conference. The Chiefs followed on Sunday night with official confirmation that Mahomes has suffered a torn ACL. A statement from the team added, Patrick and the club, they are exploring surgical options. No Mahomes, no chance on Sunday. So now what's next? First things first, hail to the Chiefs. This is the first time the Kansas City 6-8 won't be in the AFC playoffs since Mahomes became the starter. And it's the first time the Chiefs has lost at least 8 games in a season since 2012 when they were 2-14 in the season before Reid became coach. With Mahomes, the Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls and played in 2 others, and a parity-laden league leveled out by a salary cap. The Chiefs have managed to keep winning, keep competing for crowns, to establish their own dynasty in the aftermath of the New England Patriots run powered by Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And now this. Mahomes gamely limped off the field and to the bench under his own power after suffering that injury. And intentional or not, it was some kind of statement about the determination and the pride that any of us who have watched him over the years realize runs so deep through his blood. Minutes later, through the CBS's cameras, Though the CBS's cameras captured his journey to the locker room, Mahomes couldn't get there on his own. He was helped up in the tunnel with medical staffers holding up both sides like human crutches. Sadly, this moment symbolized how this chapter, if not this era, ends for the proud franchise that is now so battered. On Sunday, the Chiefs fell 1-7 this season in one-score games. So what's next? There are glaring gaps with the running game and the pass rush, and who knows how much longer Kelsey will play after mulling retirement last offseason. Yet with Mahomes being Mahomes, and it's apparent that rehab will dominate his offseason, they can still build around the quintessential centerpiece. Yet, nothing is automatic. As spectacular as Mahomes has been over the years, it was never automatic that he'd lead another Super Bowl run, even though it might have seemed that way. That was always packing a superhero cape. Now it's not automatic that the Chiefs will quickly bounce back as a contender. For a change, the Chiefs will have a long off season to deal with their issues.
Coughlin and Novak team up to win LPGA and PGA Tour event in golf. Andrew Novak joked early in the week that he was in gunning for what some are calling the modern-day Grand Slam. After winning the PGA Tour's Zurich Classic this year with partner Ben Griffin, Novak racked up a second team title at the Grant Thornton Invitational. This time he teamed with 2-time LPGA winner Lauren Coughlin for the silly season title. I mean, it was definitely a joke. It was kind of funny looking back, said Novak. I won Zurich. I won the Pebble Beach, the Pro-Am section with my teammate in that as well. Novak called Coughlin the most reliable golfer he's played with. The pair each took home a $500,000 paycheck at the Tiburon Golf Club, the largest check of Coughlin's career. At the Amundi Evian Championship last year, she won $410,000 when she finished 4th. I think it's great visibility for the LPGA to be able to partner with the PGA Tour and to get to play with some of the best players in the world on the men's side, said Coughlin, who's 33 years old, and who made her Solheim Cup debut last year. As they wrapped up the victory, Novak's wife was on the 18th green with their infant daughter to celebrate. It marked their first time traveling together to a tournament as a family of 3. We really didn't know how it was going to go, said Novak. She slept through the night basically every night. I wasn't really waking up. It was amazing. Yeah, it really went better than we could have expected. What was a tight race on the back 9 with 3 teams tied through 13 holes turned into a cruise to the clubhouse for Novak and Coughlin, who held a 2-stroke lead going into the last hole. Coughlin rolled in a birdie on the 18th to win by 3. Their 28 under total set a record for the event, with a closing 63 in the modified 4-ball format. Coughlin and Novak birdied 5 of the last 6 holes. 3 teams shared second at 25 under. It was Charlie Hull and Michael Brennan, Jennifer Kupcho and Chris Goddard, Nellie Corda and Denny McCarthy. Jessica Corda played in her first event in more than 2.5 years and finished tied for 13th, which was last place with Bud Colley. And here's a nice picture with a smiling Andrew Novak with a full beard and a shorter Lauren Coughlin with a horizontally striped shirt. Holding the trophy as they teamed up to win the Grant Thornton Invitational at the Tiburon Golf Club. I think Tiburon's near San Francisco.
5 earned 2026 PGA Tour cards at Q School. Marcelo Rozo cried before he even headed to the golf course for the final round of the PGA Tour qualifying school. Later in the day, he then cried tears of joy. This Colombian native pumped his fist as he wrapped up a final round 69 on Sunday, December 14th at Dyes Valley Course at the TPC Sawgrass to finish tied for second at 12 under 268 and earned one of the 5 cards for the 2026 PGA Tour season. The 36-year-old Rozo, who turned pro in 2012 and was sidelined for a season after a wrist surgery, has made 255 tour-sanctioned starts, but had never held a PGA Tour card. Standing on the 18th tee, knowing that he needed a par at the last to do so, he said, "I could feel my heart pumping pretty good." He tried to pump himself up, even breathing in the steam of his shower. PGA Tour member 26, he said. Still, Rozo admitted that his nerves drove him to tears. "But it was my day, and I was built for this," he said. "I've worked my entire life just for this moment." Then it was equally gratifying for A.J. Ewert, who's 26, and he carded 4 birdies on the back 9 to shoot 66 and finish at 14 under 266 and go from on the bubble to Q School medalist. After playing the past 2 seasons on the PGA Tour Americas, the equivalent of AA baseball, Ewert was making his first start at the final stage. He made a hole-in-one on Friday, but finished the front 9 of his final round with a 3-putt bogey. He could have been deflated, but his caddy then told him words of encouragement. Now, also Alejandro Tosti, a 29-year-old Argentinian, made it through the pressure cooker that is Q School for the 2nd straight year. This former Florida Gator missed his last 6 cuts of the season and didn't play in the fall, dropping to number 137 in the season-long FedEx Cup standings. But he then birdied 5 of his first 7 holes on Saturday and sank a bomb for an eagle at the par 5 16th on Sunday to shoot 3 under 67 and finish T2. Adam Svensson, a 31-year-old Canadian, opened his final round with 6 straight pars, which didn't bode well for his chances of regaining his tour card after finishing number 167 in the season-long standings and without a top 10 finish. But he remained patient, and he reeled off 4 birdies in a 6-hole stretch beginning at the number 7. He tacked on one last birdie at the 15, and he gutted out a closing par to shoot 4 under 66 and make it a trio that shared second. That left just one last card, and it would require a 2-for-1 playoff between Ben Silverman, a 38-year-old Canadian, and 29-year-old American Dylan Wu, who won on that extra hole.
Texas A&M ladies volleyball shows no fear and shocks Nebraska. The number 1 ranked Nebraska volleyball team that had not been tested in months until Sunday, December 14th. The number 3 seeded Texas A&M ladies volleyball did what 33 other teams could not, defeated a proverbial giant. The Aggies did it in the biggest match of their program's history, the NCAA Tournament Regional Final, and punched a ticket to their first Final Four. The Aggies beat the top-seeded Cornhuskers 3-2, 3 sets to 2 at 25-22, 25-22, 20-25, 35-37, and 15-13 in Lincoln, Nebraska. "I'm not scared of them," Aggies coach Jamie Morrison said before the match. "They're a really good volleyball team. But we talked the entire season and made an identity of making people uncomfortable, leaning in and imparting our will on the people we're playing. Imposing their will is putting it lightly. The Aggies had an answer for everything the Cornhuskers threw at them. The Aggies went up 2 sets to none before Nebraska showed some fight, tying the match at 2-2 behind huge pushes from Harper Murray and Rebecca Alec. Middle blocker Andy Jackson was who typically unravels opposing teams, was neutralized for most of the day with 6 kills and a .0045 hitting percentage. After fighting through 10 fourth set points, Nebraska forced a 5th set. Still, it was no match for the Aggies, who went on to win behind 3 players with double-digit kills. Kendall Stowers led the Aggies with 25 kills and 16 digs, plus 2 blocks. Logan Lednicki had 24 kills and 6 blocks. "We're the grittiest team in the country by far," Lednicki said after the win. "I mean, a lot of us are seniors. We've been doing this for a really long time," she added. "I think all the newbies, too. They came in ready to work, ready to grind, and we're just a special group of girls. Just amazing." Lednicki is one of 9 seniors on the Texas A&M roster. From the top down, Morrison's team is loaded with talent, and that helped contribute to the Aggies' massive upset. Ifena Kosakpala, one of the best middle blockers in the country, started a 10-0 run in the first set to help the Aggies capture the frame and the momentum for the match. She also had 6 kills on a 600 hitting, 2 aces, 6 digs, and 8 blocks. Morgan Perkins, in tandem with Kosakpala, added 5 kills on a 333 hitting and 9 blocks. Outside hitter Emily Helmuth was also critical down the stretch with 13 kills, 2 aces, and 4 blocks. After the Aggies' win against Nebraska, Morrison showed that she's been building up the program for the last 3 seasons, and the victory Sunday is a testament to the players and staff. "I'm so proud of these driven human beings," Morrison said. "This whole group of human beings we have is a part of our game." The last time the Cornhuskers dropped a set was in September. The last time they've been down 2 sets was August 31st against Kentucky, which punched its ticket to the Final Four. The Huskers won 3-2, but then they could not pull off the reverse sweep. Murray, who had a career high of 25 kills on a 255 hitting, plus 3 aces and 9 digs, didn't have enough to get the Huskers out of trouble, even with help from Alec, the middle blocker, who was explosive in the 4th set. She added 15 kills on 480 hitting plus 4 blocks. After the match, Nebraska head coach Donnie Busboom Kelly somberly reflected on the Cornhuskers' undefeated season coming to an end. "We played with a ton of joy. I think we maxed out," said Busboom Kelly in her first season. "We didn't make the Final Four. We're not winning a national championship. We can look back and have no regrets."
And you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on our Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Our time is 1:27, and I'm going to take you into our lifestyle section. And we're going to talk about a tribute to Rob Reiner. The heading is Appreciation for Rob Reiner, 1947 to 2025. Diverse vision from drama to comedy. Rob Reiner played a starring role in one of the most important shows in the history of American TV. That's not the work he's going to be remembered for, but instead, Reiner, who's 78 and was found dead on December 14th, along with his wife, Michelle Singer, will be remembered for directing a number of all-time great movies of the 80s and 90s, a string of films that managed to blend heart and soul and commercial success. Yes, he was good as Michael Stivic, Archie Bunker's liberal son-in-law on All in the Family, a role for which he had won 2 Emmy Awards. Meathead, as the bigoted Archie always called him. That alone is enough to be remembered for. But Reiner's early run of films ranks among the best of any director right out of the gate. Movies that spoke to a generation in a moving way. Genuinely heartfelt without being cloying. When your first feature film is This Is Your Spinal Tap, you've made your mark. He leaves behind that classic and many more. Reiner was the son of the great Carl Reiner, who died in 2020, an active critic of President Donald Trump. Rob Reiner said in a 2017 interview that the issues of the day were a regular topic of conversation with his father, so commenting on politics, it always came naturally to him. So here are 5 of my favorite movies that he has directed. The first one is This Is Spinal Tap. It's from 1984. It's the greatest rockumentary of all time, and why not? Reiner and stars Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer invented this genre. Largely improvised, the film follows the spiraling fortunes of once famous band called Spinal Tap. It's chronicled by director Marty DiBergi, played by Reiner. He was knocked out by their exuberance, their raw power, and punctuality. It's influential, endlessly quotable, and utterly hilarious. It's a cliche to say it now, but this one goes to 11, and you can watch it on HBO Max. The next movie is called The Princess Bride. It's a fairy tale that's sweet but with a bite. The grandfather, who's Peter Falk, tells his sick grandson, Fred Savage, a story in a framing device that includes one of the great endings of all time. The story itself is a wild William Goldman script based on his novel is legendary. It includes a beautiful princess, Robin Wright, a prince played by Chris Sarandon, and a pirate, Carrie Ills, a sword fighter, Mandy Patinkin, a giant, Andre the Giant, fantastic, and somehow Wallace Shawn, along with rodents of unusual size. Now, this may be the best directed film of Reiner's career. There's not a false note to be found. Can we watch it again? As you wish. And where can you watch it? On Disney Plus and on Hulu. Now, the next film is When Harry Met Sally. This is from 1989. It's a great rom-com for sure. The best rom-com? Maybe. Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan have unexpected and undeniable chemistry as friends who don't want to take the relationship further because they worry it will ruin things. And guess how that turns out? Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby are the secret weapons, and Nora Ephron's script never surrenders to sentimentality. That's because the romance never overshadows the comedy. Reiner's mother, I'll have what she's having, makes a memorable cameo. If you know, you know, and you should really know. And where can you watch that? On Stars. Now, the next movie is A Few Good Men. This was in 1992. Reiner got his only Oscar nomination as a producer of this Best Picture nominee. Aaron Sorkin wrote the script about a green Navy lawyer, that was played by Tom Cruise, with a history of settling cases who decides to take a legendary colonel, that was Jack Nicholson, to court after a young Marine is murdered on the barracks. Were the killers fellow Marines, or were they just following orders? Everyone remembers, with good reason, Nicholson's Oscar-nominated "You Can't Handle the Truth" speech in court. But look at the performances Reiner gets out of Kevin Pollak, Kevin Bacon, and the brilliant J.T. Walsh. A top entry in the list of those that, when you happen upon them while channel surfing, you're just hooked for the duration. And you can watch that on Apple TV. And then movie number 5, the last one, is Misery. That was in 1990. Kathy Bates won an Oscar for her portrayal of a fan obsessed with the work of a famous author, who was played by James Caan, who conveniently wrecks his car in the snow near her house. Then she resorts to rather brutal tactics to keep him there, and she's not happy about the direction his next novel is taking. Bates is either over the top or brilliant, maybe both, probably both, really. William Goldman's screenplay is based on Stephen King's novel. Reiner had already had good luck adapting King with Stand By Me. While that was a coming-of-age story, he leaned into this horror and Bates. And where can you watch that? On Apple TV.
Miley Cyrus channeled Parton for an Avatar ballad. She can't stop and she won't stop. Over the past 2 years, Miley Cyrus has been a prolific presence in Hollywood, making a trippy cameo in Ethan Coen's Drive Away Dolls, performing the end credits ballad Beautiful That Way for Pamela Anderson's drama The Last Showgirl, and releasing her visual album Something Beautiful in theaters. Now the 3-time Grammy winner is taking her unmistakable voice to the planet of Pandora with Dream As One, her Golden Globe nominated original song for Avatar Fire and Ash. Cyrus, who's 33 years old, volunteered herself to write a tune for director James Cameron after running into him at Disney's D23 fan event last year, where they were both honored as Disney legends. USA Today caught up with the former Hannah Montana star turned shapeshifter, who opened up about a recent engagement to musician Max Morando, how godmother Dolly Parton influenced her dynamic Avatar anthem. Question: when I spoke to James Cameron, he mentioned that you have a very personal story behind this song. What did you tap into when writing it? Cyrus answers, the title alone, Fire and Ash, losing my home in the Wolseley fire, rebuilding again and starting from the ground up. Something that's beautiful about rebuilding is brick by brick. You have to make conscious choices of what you want to replenish and what can just fade into the ashes and kept as a memory. So that was really inspiring for me. The goal for me personally as a songwriter is to medicate with music, whether it's a sick culture or something else. Right now there's no need for hope and courage and never to give up, which is a big theme of Avatar. James Cameron Films have a rich history of music, with Celine Dion and Titanic. Was there a moment when you had to set aside the expectations and say, here's what I can bring that's uniquely me? Let me tell you, she says, I did not forget about Celine for a moment. I was thinking, this is drama. This is my Celine. I definitely did not put her on the shelf. I'm completely gagged for her, so I'm into the idea of having a song that's embedded in a film that's iconic in that way. It reminds me, too, of my godmother's song, I Will Always Love You. It's now so anonymous with The Bodyguard. I was super inspired by the idea of doing something this dramatique that I couldn't or wouldn't normally do on an album. Even though I myself, I wanted to lean into the characterization you can do when you're part of a film. I try not to lean into expectations, but I also like to set challenges for myself and thresholds to meet. I wanted to surrender and soften, become very vulnerable and tender, though because that's something that can be lacked in these huge epic films that they're so filled with so much action. I wanted to do something that the drama and supporting actor Oscar pundits all have a engraved Buckley statue for getting a star turned. Though no one else would, which is my favorite thing. Your fiancé collaborated closely with you on something beautiful. Did Max offer any inspiration or feedback when it came to this song? Well, he loves fantasy, and so do I. Something I loved about this, and I've said a bit about our relationship, is that I'm interested in a fantasy and not a fairy tale. I really leaned into that, and it's a theme a lot in my music. Being a self-savior, not waiting for someone to save you, but saving yourself. The women in Avatar saved the day, so I was always bouncing ideas off of him. How do I make this feel grounded and lyrically like a diary entry, but still have that fueled by fantasy?
And now here's our lifestyle cover story. It's about movies. Jessie Buckley and Chloe Zhao are back in the awards race for the critically acclaimed Hamnet. Buckley and Zhao, they find friendship after bonding on this movie called Hamnet. Hamnet is without a question the most devastating movie of the year. But while making this lauded Shakespeare drama, it's in the theaters now. Jessie Buckley and Chloe Zhao, they learn to dance through their pain. The actress and director gleefully break into song as they recount Chloe's now legendary dance moves with the cast, who would cut a rug to the Cardigans and Frankie Valli at the end of a particularly heavy filming day. They were often in their full Elizabethan garb. Now, when you have a lot of tension, you just need to shake your body. And I saw how the dancing bonded everyone right away, Zhao says in a joint interview with Buckley, who requested pop singer Ray for their boogie-filled photo shoot earlier in the day. It's a newfound form of therapy for Zhao. Zhao healed parts of herself through this making of Hamnet. Since scooping up a boatload of audience prizes at the fall film festivals, Hamnet has steadily gained steam as an awards juggernaut, earning 6 Golden Globe nominations for the Best Drama, Actress, which is Buckley, and Supporting Actor, which is Paul Mescal. Oscar pundits, too, have all but engraved Buckley's statue for her gutting, tear-stained turn. Based on Maggie O'Farrell's 2020 historical fiction novel, this film follows playwright William Shakespeare Mescal and his wild-eyed wife, Agnes, who's played by Buckley, whose relationship is splintered by the tragic loss of their young son called Hamnet. Will filters through their unspoken grief into his now classic play Hamnet, and together, the couple, they find a cathartic way forward. Buckley and her mental health worker husband, Freddie, they recently welcomed their first child this year, but while filming Hamnet in 2024, she primarily looked to her resilient musician mom, Marina, who is back at work playing someone's wedding literally 2 days after giving birth. My mother is all work, and I love her deeply. She's been a real beacon in my life and continues to be one of the bravest people I know. I've learned a lot from her, as well as from her mother. There's something in Agnes that is ancestral. She's very aware that there's a lineage that's way bigger than her, and there will be something that lives beyond her. Now, Zhao, meanwhile, was drawn to the themes of loss and memory in O'Farrell's book, which course through her films Eternals, The Rider, and Songs My Brothers Taught Me. It's the very visceral way that she writes about Agnes's relationship with nature and unseen, Zhao says. The Chinese-born filmmaker has long had a profound connection to the natural world, which stems from her restricted childhood and is now reflected in her movies. So Buckley recalls the amazing moment when they became friends. Throughout production, Zhao led the cast and crew in daily meditations and encouraged her actors to get in touch with their subconscious through dream coaching and body movement exercises. From the beginning, Chloe was asking us to be as human as possible, Buckley recalls, and because of that, I felt drawn to create in so many ways. I was kind of in a fever dream. I don't know if I could have done it with a different director. The actress was introduced to Zhao at the 2022 Telluride Film Festival, where Mescal pitched the filmmaker on adapting Hamnet for the big screen. The women, they became fast friends. Not long after Zhao was in a moment of deep instability, sitting in a Central Park hotel room late one night and reeling from a recent breakup, among other things. Suddenly, I get a message from Jessie, and she says, "Are you okay? Get in the car right now. Just take your toothbrush. I have everything else," Zhao recalls. So, I went to her East Village apartment. She made me tea, and I just cuddled in her arms on the couch. Usually directors are the ones keeping it together, and here she is taking care of me. It was an amazing moment, Buckley says. We just cracked the seal, and we were open with each other from the jump. Now, because of that, I felt like, oh, this is going to be a totally different experience making this film. We can both just go to these places and just be there for each other. Their genuine connection, it's evident, laughing and hugging as they sit side by side in a stale hotel conference room. They're grateful to have one another on an award season journey, and they feel like they're discovering new things about Hamnet as more people see themselves in the movie. It's so nice to do this with you, Buckley says, smiling as Zhao leans on her shoulder. You know me so well. I love you.
Well, you're listening to a reading of today's USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 1:41. In her health and wellness, Serena Williams serves up lingo for health. Serena Williams has one word top of mind when it comes to health: longevity. The 44-year-old tennis star opened up about her experience with GLP-1 medications in August after partnering with the healthcare company Ro. It's spelled R-O. She also has it teamed up with Lingo by Abbott, a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, that tracks glucose in your interstitial fluids. After she stopped playing tennis, she became obsessed with healthful eating and living. She has used Lingo since its U.S. launch in September of 2024, and tracking her health data has empowered her to make more informed food choices and leave the word diet behind. More than 80% of people with prediabetes don't know they have it, as it often has no symptoms. However, it's very common. More than 1 in 3 U.S. adults have prediabetes. While it's possible to reverse prediabetes, it's typically not possible to reverse diabetes complications, making prevention and proper management essential. It's an issue that gets close to home for Williams, who has a family history of diabetes. Lingo's mission is to help people understand how their body reacts to different dietary choices, which sometimes can reveal early signs without paying attention to. CGMs for non-diabetics have picked up steam as a new wellness trend, but not everyone in the health field is so bullish on their prospects for everyone. Still, Serena Williams says preventive health is all about finding a balance, even if she falls closer to one end of the spectrum. Who am I kidding? I'm not balanced. I'm definitely an extremist, Williams says over the phone from Florida. But I also want what's best for myself, and I think other people do also. She shares 2 children, Olympia, 7 years old, and Adira, 2, with her husband, Alexis Ohanian, who's an investor in Ro, for whom she wants to stay as healthy as possible. Who doesn't want longevity? Because that's what it all boils down to, she adds. And what are CGMs? CGMs are small sensors placed under the skin of your arm that send data to your smartphone and offer insights on your blood sugar levels. It's a tool diabetics may use, and it can even connect to an insulin pump. Lingo is not used for managing diseases, including diabetes, and can't connect to an insulin pump. Some nutrition experts say a CGM can be valuable for non-diabetics by encouraging them to choose healthier foods and stave off chronic disease. However, some people with diabetes feel this wellness trend trivializes their experience, especially since many patients can't access these life-saving devices because of the cost. Dr. Robert Schmerling, a senior faculty and editor of Harvard Health, publishing at Harvard Medical School, previously told USA Today he thinks continuous glucose monitoring is marketing getting ahead of the science. You aren't diabetic, for example, he says, in the research, if you aren't diabetic, the research doesn't support CGMs as effective. But people who use CGMs, including Williams, may still find them valuable. Some non-diabetic CGM users have even discovered they were experiencing symptoms of hypoglycemia or low blood sugar, helping them to get proper care sooner. GLP-1s and lingo fit into Williams' big picture of health. When announcing her partnership with Roe, Williams shared that she lost 31 pounds on the GLP-1 drug Zepbound, a type of medication typically prescribed for diabetes and now also used for weight management. My story with Roe and GLP-1s is I did everything to get healthy, and I wasn't getting there, she explained. She considered fad diets a thing of the past, given technology people now have access to. I think fad diets were great because that's all we had back then, she said. But everyone is still trying to be healthy and trying their best, but this Lingo is something that actually works. You can make real-time decisions. The Lingo app will even send her reminders to take a walk or do 10 squats. She feels better than ever on GLP-1s and says that using Lingo has been a good contributor to monitoring her health and throughout this journey. There are positives and negatives to all types of things. You have to decide if that's what you want, she says. My life has been health. With 23 Grand Slam titles, Williams spent her life optimizing her performance. While she's carried that mentality into motherhood, and part of her focus has shifted into her kids' nutrition. As an athlete, health is our life, she says, and even more so as a mom. I really watch how I prepare food. Williams cooks for her children 5 to 6 days a week and wants to pass down healthful eating habits. Lingo has helped me really helped me understand what I'm eating, she says. I just take that education just throughout my life and transfer it to things I'm learning from my kids. And here's a picture of her holding her smartphone with long, light-colored hair almost down to her waist, and looking very healthy, but she has a little patch for a glucose monitor on the back of her arm.
And now I'm going to take you back to our front page, and we're going to talk about maggots. Maggot DNA can offer time of death estimate. Metabolic changes are key to focusing this timeline. Maggots may be the key to more accurately determining when people died, according to Florida researchers, pointing to the genetic makeup of this larva. The findings build on previous methods that investigators have used to determine when people died. Currently, investigators rely on the outer appearance of the maggots and the presence of the eggs on decomposing bodies to estimate people's death dates. Yet, researchers at Miami's Florida International University have found that by observing the maggots' genes and metabolic changes, investigators can better estimate when people died. Calling the discovery a molecular clock, the university said in a news release that finding could revolutionize death investigations worldwide. The research was published on December 4th in a peer-reviewed journal. So here's how the method works and why researchers believe it's so important in determining the time of death. How does the current method work and what's wrong with it? Leading the research team are FIU biologist Matthew DeGennaro and forensics researcher Jeffrey Wells. According to the researchers, investigators often rely on maggots or fly larvae to determine the time passed since someone's death. The larvae, which is among the first to feed on decomposing flesh, they help investigators determine the time passed since death by their size, their weight, and their appearance. The older the maggots appear, the longer the person has been deceased. So researchers stress that maggots are cold-blooded, so when pinpointing the time of death, they must consider the temperature and the time. One limitation of the current method is that maggots have a period during which their outer appearance does not change significantly. So this period is called the third instar, and it can last hours or days. So during this period, the larvae eventually stop feeding and then just wander away from the body and retreat into the soil or the clothing, searching for a place to later transition into their adult flies, according to the university. By relying on the maggots' outside appearance, which is at a standstill for some time, investigators cannot make the most accurate prediction of the time of death. So, What is this new method? The FIU researchers observed the genetic makeup of larvae during this third instar period where they change very little in appearance. Analysis was done at 10-hour intervals. During this 10-hour intervals, as the team studied the genetic makeup of these maggots, PhD candidate Sheng-Ho Lin, he discovered 9 genes that differed in the older larvae. Now, this analysis allowed the team to create a molecular clock that could give investigators a more accurate age for the larvae, helping to determine a more precise time of death in these death investigations. Now the molecular clock can be tested outside the lab, the researchers say. And the team also has found that the maggots begin to show signs of wandering at 90 hours old. Also, the maggots showed no noticeable changes in weight or size between 110 and 130 hours old. And last, it says, wandering became predominant behavior for the maggots once they reached 130 hours old.
Well, police have new evidence in the JonBenét mystery case. Nearly 3 decades after JonBenét Ramsey's mysterious killing, Colorado police said her cold case is still a top priority. In an annual update, the Boulder Police Department urged anyone with information to come forward about the killing of the 6-year-old child beauty queen in her childhood home in 1996. Ramsey's killing has captivated international audiences for decades. In the past year, Police Chief Stephen Redfern said detectives have conducted several new interviews based on tips received and collected and tested new evidence. They did not release information about what new evidence has been gathered. Meanwhile, police have re-interviewed people and retested other pieces of evidence using evolving DNA technology. It's never too late for people with knowledge of this terrible crime to come forward, Redfern said in a pre-recorded video December 12th. And I urge those responsible for this murder to contact us. The morning of December 26, 1996, John and Patsy Ramsey called 911 after they found a ransom note for their daughter who was missing. John Ramsey later found JonBenét dead in their home's basement. An autopsy ruled her cause of death as strangulation, and she had been sexually assaulted. Her skull was fractured. She had an unknown person's DNA under her fingernails and in her underwear. Patsy Ramsey, her mother, died in 2006, a decade after her daughter's death. And in 2008, the local prosecutor cleared her family, including older brother, as suspects because of DNA testing. In his video, Redfern, who joined the department in 2021, became the chief in 2024, said he met JonBenét's family and said they had shared the same goal of finding the girl's killer. Boulder police encouraged anyone with information to contact the police tip line at 303-441-1974. It's on to the Lifeline column. Making waves with Bronwyn and Todd. After nearly a decade of marriage, Bronwyn Newport and Todd Bradley are going their separate ways. After thoughtful consideration, Bronwyn Newport and Todd Bradley have separated. They said in a statement to USA Today, "This was a mutual decision made with care and respect for one another. The reason for the couple's separation was not disclosed. Newport had previously opened up about her tumultuous marriage to Bradley on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City during season 5 of the Bravo reality series. The fashion blogger told her castmates Bradley cheated on her in the past. This is a side of me that these ladies haven't seen yet. I want to understand that I bleed the same way they all do. I cry about things, and about that side of me is there if they're open to it." Newport reflected in a confessional. It's your birthday. Who's celebrated today? Actor Joyce Bulifant is 88. Journalist Leslie Stahl is 84. Singer-songwriter-composer Benny Anderson of ABBA is 79. Guitarist-singer Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top is 76. Actor Benjamin Bratt is 62. Director-screenwriter James Mangold, 62. Actor-comedian J.B. Smoove is 60. Actor Daniel Cosgrove is 55. Actor Kristen Ritter is 44. And actor Theo James is 41. Here's your horoscopes. Aries, March 21st to April 19th. Big dreams meet inner limits. Our emotional sabotage tactics attempting to hold you back from expansion break the glass ceiling. Taurus, April 20th to May 20th. Friendships of group associations may feel burdensome. Dig deep to access generosity. Gemini, May 21st to June 21st. Are responsibilities weighing on you? The sun triggering Saturn highlights how professional pressures may be affecting your relationships. Cancer, June 22nd to July 22nd. A dream will stay a dream unless you work for it. Does your routine build toward your bigger vision? Leo, July 23rd to August 22nd. Heavier feelings may overshadow fun. Shift your perspective. Virgo, August 23rd to September 22nd. Relationship testing your patience. Your home life or emotional well-being may feel triggered. Libra, September 23rd to October 23rd. Encountering barriers in your work. Productivity may be hindered by obstacles today. Use your intuition. Scorpio, October 24th to November 21st. Envision what brings you joy. Do you value it enough to do the work? Sagittarius, November 22nd to December 21st. Time to decide on your home situation. The sun squaring off with Saturn puts pressure on foundational commitments. Capricorn, discipline can benefit your thought processes. The sun confronting Saturn pushes you to see holes in negative thinking. Aquarius, what do you have to give to your community? Assess where to double down and where to set boundaries. In Pisces, February 19th, March 20th, the pressure is on. To shine in your ambitions, you may have to accept a new level of responsibility. And you've been listening to the reading of USA Today for Tuesday, December 16th. We read USA Today weekday at noon. For more information, call us at 821-5555. Your readers today have been
Jody
and Alan Blackburn.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. If you're worried about food, heating assistance, or other basic needs for your household, help is available. Call 211 for local food pantries, meal services, and other supports in your neighborhood. That's 211. Available 24 hours a day, every day, with free and confidential referrals. Get the help you need today. Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the we have episode number 1 of You Belong Here by Megan Miranda. At 3 o'clock, we have the National Geographic, and at 4 o'clock, a reading of today's Buffalo News. It's a re-airing of this morning's. Stay with us for these readings and more. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,